The alarm screamed through the concrete halls of ADX Florence. Red lights flashed across the steel walls as guards shouted commands that no one could hear. In cell block H, 2 inmates were already face to face, eyes wild, breathing hard. One of them, a tall man with tattoos running up his neck, slammed his fist against the wall, yelling, "No more hiding!" The other, shorter but fierce, gripped the edge of his bed frame, turning it into a shield. Then, a deafening boom. Someone had smashed a food tray against the security glass, shattering it halfway. The riot had begun. From inside their isolation cells, other inmates pounded on the walls, screaming words that blurred together. The cameras caught everything, chaos spreading like fire through the most secure prison in America. ADX Florence, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, was built to be escape-proof, silent and calm. But today, silence had turned into thunder. Guards in riot gear rushed down the corridor, shields raised, boots thudding on the floor. Lock down now!" shouted one of the sergeants through his radio, but the noise drowned his voice. Inmate 34, everyone just called him Ice, stood in the middle of his cell, hands shaking, eyes darting toward the small slit of a window. He had been in solitary confinement for 11 years. No human contact, no conversation, only a bed, a sink, and his thoughts. But now, for the first time, he heard chaos outside. Human chaos. And something inside him woke up. He stepped closer to the door, pressed his ear to the cold steel. The shouts were getting louder. Closer. Then, through the narrow window, he saw it. Smoke rising from the next block. Someone had set fire to a mattress. The air filled with the smell of burning plastic and sweat. Sprinklers burst on, spraying cold water that mixed with the smoke. Ice backed up, coughing, heart pounding. He knew this wasn't just a riot. This was revenge. A message from one gang to another. Across the hall, a voice shouted his name. "Ice, you hear me? They're coming for C block. Don't let him near the vent." Ice froze. He hadn't heard another person speak his name in years. He didn't even know if that voice was real, or just his mind playing tricks again. But before he could move, there was another bang. The power cut out. Everything went black. The only sound left was the dripping water, and a low, steady breathing outside his door. Someone was there, waiting. Then came a whisper through the darkness. "You ready to pay for what you did, Ice?" The lights flickered back on, and what Ice saw made his blood run cold. The flickering lights revealed a shadow standing just outside Ice's cell. It wasn't a guard. It was another inmate, somehow loose from his own unit. His orange jumpsuit was torn, and his face was half covered by a towel soaked in water to block the smoke. In his hand, he held a broken metal pipe. "How did you get out?" Ice asked, his voice low and dry. The man grinned. "When the system shuts down, all kinds of doors start talking. You remember me?" Ice squinted through the haze. The man stepped closer to the glass. A scar ran down his cheek, a scar Ice remembered giving him years ago, back when they were both in general population. The name hit him like a hammer. "Ray." Ray's grin widened. "Didn't think I'd forget, did you?" Before Ice could respond, Ray slammed the pipe against the glass. The reinforced window didn't break, but it cracked. A deep spiderweb crack that spread across the surface. Ice stepped back. He knew the glass could only take a few more hits. "Ray, listen," Ice said, raising his hands, trying to keep his voice calm. "That fight was a long time ago. Things were different back then." Ray hit the glass again. "Different? You left me bleeding on the yard, man. You let them jump me and walked away." The sprinkler water kept falling like rain, hissing on the hot floor. Somewhere down the hall, an alarm blared again, followed by the echo of boots. Guards were coming back. But in the chaos, nobody knew who was in control anymore. "I didn't want this, Ray." Ice said quietly. I just wanted to survive. Ray hesitated, just for a second. That tiny moment of pause let Ice see something he hadn't seen in years. Fear. Ray wasn't just angry. He was broken, too. They both were. Products of the same endless cycle inside ADX Florence, where silence drove men insane. Then the sound of metal scraping echoed from the next cell. Another voice shouted, Ray, we gotta move. They're flooding the block. Ray glanced back. Water was rising from the floor vents, pushing smoke into every corner. The riot had triggered the emergency flood system meant to control fires. It was now drowning everything in cold, dirty water. Ray hit the glass one last time, leaving a deep dent, then pointed the pipe at Ice. You got lucky today, but when they move us out, I'll find you. He turned and vanished into the smoke. Ice stood in silence, breathing hard, his heart hammering in his chest. The lights flickered again, then went dark for good. The water reached his ankles. Somewhere above, a loudspeaker crackled to life. A robotic voice repeated, All units, total lockdown, lethal force authorized. I stared up at the ceiling, feeling the weight of it all. He knew what was coming, a total purge of the block, tear gas, rubber bullets, maybe worse. But then, over the radio static, he heard something that froze him in place. Unit C breached. Unknown number of inmates unaccounted for. Possible escape route through maintenance tunnel. Escape. That word burned through Ice's mind like lightning. He looked at the vent near the floor, the same one Ray's voice had warned him about earlier. Smoke was pouring from it, but behind that smoke might be a way out. He crouched down, grabbed the vent cover, and just as he started pulling, a red laser dot appeared on his chest. Don't move, a guard's voice shouted through the haze. Hands where I can see them. Ice froze, caught between survival and surrender. Then, a blast shook the ground beneath him. The floor cracked open. The floor split with a deafening crack, sending a shockwave through the corridor. Ice fell to his knees as cold water rushed around him. The concrete beneath him had broken open, revealing a narrow tunnel filled with wires, pipes, and darkness. The guards shouted orders above the noise, red laser dots sweeping across the smoke, searching for movement. Get down! Stay where you are! A guard yelled. But Ice's eyes were fixed on that opening below him, the one place that wasn't a cage. Without thinking, he dove. He landed hard, splashing into knee-deep water. The tunnel was tight and dark, lit only by the emergency red light bleeding from above. Behind him, he heard the sound of boots hitting the floor. He's in the sub-level. Move, move! Ice crawled forward, his hands scraping against rough concrete and dripping cables. The air was thick, hot, and full of static from the broken wires. He didn't know where the tunnel led. Maybe to another cell block, maybe to the generator room, or maybe nowhere at all. But it didn't matter. For the first time in years, he was moving, really moving. Not in circles inside a 7 by 12-foot room, but towards something uncertain and free. Then came the echo of metal against metal. Someone else was in the tunnel. Thought you could leave me behind? A voice said. Ray. He crawled out from the shadows, face wet, pipe still in hand. The two men stared at each other in the narrow space, both breathing hard. This tunnel ain't big enough for both of us, Ray said. Ice looked him in the eye. Maybe it doesn't have to be. For a moment, neither moved. The sound of boots and radios grew louder above them. The guards were closing in. Both men knew it. If they wasted time fighting, they'd never make it out. Ray's hand trembled. He lowered the pipe just slightly. What's your plan? Ice pointed ahead. The air system connects to waistline. That's where the pressure's pushing out. It might lead to the outer yard. Ray gave a small nod. Then let's move. They crawled side by side through the darkness, their jumpsuits soaked, their arms bleeding from sharp edges. Behind them, gas hissed down through the vents. The guards were flooding the tunnel with tear gas. "Faster!" Ice shouted. They pushed on until the tunnel opened into a wider chamber, a concrete shaft with a large metal grate at the top. A faint wind blew through it, carrying the cold air of the Colorado night. Freedom was just beyond that grate. Ray climbed first, gripping the wet pipes to pull himself up. Ice followed close behind. The sound of alarms echoed through every wall, louder and louder. Ray reached the grate and started kicking at it. "It's welded!" he yelled. Ice climbed beside him, bracing his shoulder against the bars. Together they pushed, harder, again and again. The metal groaned, then bent slightly. A sliver of moonlight cut through. Then came a gunshot. Sparks flew off the grate as a bullet hit the wall near them. Guards had reached the lower end of the tunnel. "Hands up, now!" someone shouted. Ray looked at Ice, eyes wild. "We're so close, man." Ice took one last breath and shoved the grate with everything he had. It broke free, clattering into the dirt above. Cold air rushed in, hitting his face. He pushed Ray upward. "Go!" Ray climbed through the hole, vanishing into the night air. Ice started to follow, but another shot rang out and a piece of concrete exploded beside him. He slipped, fell halfway back down. He looked up. Ray was gone. Guards surrounded the tunnel below, flashlights blinding him. "Get down! Don't move!" Ice closed his eyes, breathing hard. For a brief moment he felt the mountain air on his face. It wasn't freedom, not really, but it was something close. The next morning, the news reported, riot contained at ADX Florence. One inmate escaped through a maintenance tunnel, another recaptured alive. In his new solitary cell, Ice sat quietly, staring at the ceiling. The silence had returned, but it no longer scared him. Somewhere out there, someone had made it. And for the first time in 11 years, that thought made him smile.